Hey, what's wrong with the cycle lane? What's wrong with the cycle lane? Get off the road, mate. I've lived here pretty much my entire life. I'm 23 years old now, and in the last year I've recently been residing in Orakei or Mission Bay. I love this suburb, it's beautiful. I'm 1 minute from the beach, I'm pretty close to the city, pretty close to the motorway, and it's really nice and quiet here. The real issue, especially in this part of the city, I think, and don't get me wrong, it's a very first world problem, but I believe that it's an issue that needs to be solved. And the council and the community are not doing enough. And this problem, of course, is cyclists, and specifically cyclists along Tamaki Drive. And not even so much the cycle lanes, but more so the way of thinking and attitude towards roads, cycle lanes, and pedestrian lanes. As you may have noticed, the amount of cyclists in this city is going up faster than Dogecoin. And with poor city planning being a constant factor in our everyday life here in Auckland, whether it's motorways, cycle lanes, bus lanes, it's Auckland, you know. When I started filming this video a month ago, it was literally fueled out of anger, but also curiosity. I wanted to know why. I've been living here for a year and I'm already so fed up with it. I want to know why these people that have been living here for 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 years are not sick of it and have, gone to the council, gone to the Ministry of Transport, that kind of stuff, because the problem just keeps on getting worse and worse every day. There's people getting killed. There was a cyclist down the road the other week that went through a red light, hit a small child. Thankfully, they survived. Now, it's not all the cyclists. Most of the cyclists, and I didn't think this when I started this video, but after going out on my own, interviewing a bunch of locals, interviewing a bunch of cyclists, getting a road bike for myself and riding on the cycle lane and then on the road, you'll see that later in the video, I've come to realize that it's not so much all the cyclists. However, the majority of cyclists have a very interesting viewpoint on who should be using the road and who should be using the cycle lane, when and where and why. A small minority of cyclists, probably the ones that you've ran into or seen on social media, people posting funny videos, parody videos, stuff like that. I'll just call the arsehole cyclist. And this is the one that is full lycra, super hard out road bike, yet somehow doesn't manage to go above 35 k's an hour on a flat road. They're usually men in their 40s, 50s, and they are the real pandemic here in Auckland at the moment. They don't seem to get punished for any laws they break. They seem to think that they should have just as much right to be on the road as anyone else without having to pay for registration, road user charges, or abide by any road rules such as, indicating, red lights, stop signs, giving way to other vehicles, minimum speed limits. When I commute from my house in Mission Bay to the city and just driving around the neighborhood, there is, I would say more often than not, a cyclist going 20, 30 kilometers an hour in the middle of a 50-kilometer road, or so much in the middle that it is a dangerous maneuver to overtake them. So, you've seen it everywhere. There's a cyclist, he's sort of to the left, but not really, and they're not gonna move over, so you have to go into the median or into even the other lane. Now, when the council recently spent $14 million and more, as they're redoing it, on the new cycle lane down on Tamaki Drive, during that construction phase was the peak point in my anger. Every single time I went down that narrow 2-lane road, there's a 30 kilometer an hour speed limit, and they use that to justify their actions. But 30 kilometer an hour speed limit, everyone goes 50. That's Auckland, right? And then you'll find 1, 2, sometimes even 3 cyclists just right in the middle, and there's just a row, 20, 50 cars backed up behind them, and they're just biking along, having a chat, just completely inconsiderate. And that really fueled my drive to at least investigate why they do that. As the cycle lane has been finished, to be fair, a few of them now use the cycle lane, but there's still an overwhelming majority that continue to use the road as if there isn't a brand new $14 million, beautifully laid out cycle lane there right next to them. And we'll get into the, the excuses they use. Oh, it's a bit bumpy, it's not straight enough, some of them say. We'll get into that later, but that really fueled sort of my interest in making a video like this. I had a look on some of the community pages in our area, and sometimes people complain about them. It's actually gotten to the point where it is such an invigorating and controversial topic that if someone posts in a community page, it instantly gets a ridiculous amount of comments from both sides being like, yeah, fuck the cyclist, and the cyclist saying, fuck you, I should much right to be on the road as you do, blah, blah. And it's just such a controversial topic that these pages, these community pages, just end up blocking the post or removing it completely, and there's almost no discussion about it. How are we meant to come to a solution if no one's even willing to discuss it in the first place, right? We spoke to the chairman of the Residents Association here in Mission Bay, and they almost had zero input on how this new cycle lane is going to be laid out, which is actually more beneficial for the cyclists than it is for the road users. They're actually thinning the lanes out to an almost illegal width. There was no asking the public, oh, like here are the plans, or at least showing the plans, right? They just did it. And who did they actually show the plans to and ask for advice on what to do? Bike Auckland. I tried to set up an interview with these guys. I got in contact with one of them who was very keen. He CC'd in some chick, and then she basically told me to fuck off. So I had already organized an interview with this guy down the road and was ready to go, and then he CC'd in someone else. She didn't want any part in it. I had an interview organized with New Zealand Transport, and we had a date and time ready. Once again, they CC'd in someone else to double check that they should go ahead with it, and they pulled the plug. They basically said fuck off right again. For the pure purpose of making this video as non-biased as possible, I needed to actually go out there and see for myself, walk a mile or bike a mile in these guys' shoes. So I borrowed a road bike, a nice carbon fiber one. I got the cleats, shoes that pop into the cycle and everything, and I went for a ride.
All right, so it's about 8 a.m. Just down the road from my house, and it's time to go for a ride and see what all the fuss is about. I'm gonna go pretty much all the way to work like I usually would in my car. On the way there, I'm gonna go in the cycle lane, and on the way back, I'm gonna go on the road. I've never cycled on the road before, not on a road bike. I imagine it won't be that hard to stay above 35, 40 k's an hour, but we'll see. We got the cleats on, fully lycra'd up, looking like an absolute champ. The only thing that could complete this look is a trim flat white. Let's fucking do it. The main complaint that cyclists have about using the cycle lane here on Tamaki Drive is that it's either too bumpy, there's pedestrians in the way, or it's not straight enough. But there we go, you can see there's some scooters now in the way. There's one of the bros there. Oh, he's faster than me, I gotta catch up. Look how fast he is, oh no! Cycle lane, so far, currently not too bad. Morning, big man. Coming through. Thank you. So there was a few pedestrians in the way there. I just politely asked them to move. They seem to move over. So far, it's not too bad being in the cycle lane. The cars are going past, no one's blocking the road. Pedestrians are on their side, I'm on my side. A big part of why these things are so fucking uncomfortable is because you've got this hard seat and it's just riding right up against your dick. The lane is getting quite thin. Oh yeah, we had another cyclist coming towards us, not an issue. We both slowed down a small amount. A little bit bumpy, overall not too bad.
So far this has been a breeze. Getting quite bumpy. I think this is the bumpiest part of the track up here. Oh, it's a nice tickle on the balls, bit of a squeeze. So far on this journey I've seen 2 other cyclists in the cycle lane and about 25 on the road. And I have no problem if there's enough space on the road and they stay on their side and we can give them a meter's room, you know? But it's when they're riding 2 abreast, 3 abreast, or just riding in the middle of the road and don't even attempt to move over is where it starts to get annoying for me personally. You know, when I posted the idea about this video on the community page, everyone was saying, oh, you're gonna be biased, you know, you just hate cyclists, all this shit. But here I am, I'm on the cycle, in the cycle lane. Morning, brother. Oh, he said hi to me. I'm part of the group. Does that mean I've earned my trim flat white? I hope so. Oh, there we go, so we gotta go down to the footpath for a bit. Morning, mate. 2 cyclists just went past each other in the cycle lane. Crazy shit. We are revolutionizing. There's been a few bumps, there's been a few tree roots, but they haven't been too hard to move out of the way for. A few scooters here and there. I'm actually kind of nervous to ride on the road because this is really safe. I'm doing a steady 25-30 k's an hour, which is about as fast as most of the cyclists on the road go, and I haven't felt in danger once. Now we are just getting onto the new part of the cycle lane, and this section increases the width by more than double. This cost the taxpayers $14 million. I've never even walked on it before, let alone cycled, so let's see what $14 million gets you. Here we go, so from this point on there should be no pedestrians on this point. That's their section down there, and you know, you can probably see it in the GoPros, it's a little bit bumpy, but that road next to us, it's incredibly poorly designed as well. The lanes are too thin for a car, let alone a car and a cyclist. The road's bumpy as hell too. I'm having a great time on the cycle lane so far. Here's some other responsible cyclists in the cycle lane. Good morning. Everyone's happy. Why can't it be this peaceful every morning? Wind's in my hair. The thought of a trim flat white is just running through my veins, pushing me to keep on pedaling. Morning, mate. Another responsible cyclist in the cycle lane, great to see. A little bit more bumpy here, but you know, not too bad at all. Morning, lads. I haven't seen a cyclist on this section of the road yet. It was a really big problem when the cycle lane was still being built, and I kind of understood it back then. There still was a footpath. That is when we saw a lot of cyclists 2 or 3 abreast or riding in the middle and just really not making any effort to be considerate towards anyone else. So we're coming up to a sign now. It says, cyclists, please go back onto this way. You know, they're still finishing up that part of the cycle lane there, I guess. So we're back onto the old footpath for a minute. And there's been a few little bumps here and there so far, but nothing that's hurt me, nothing that's slowed me down. Sometimes you have to stop for a bit as if you were on the road, you know, at a red light or an intersection, waiting for someone else, you know, giving someone else right of way. It's a crazy concept. This section, incredibly smooth. Very happy. I'm really nervous for what I'm about to have to do, because I'm about to have to get off this perfectly good cycle lane that I haven't had a single issue with, and I'm about to have to get on the road, on a single lane road. I'm knowingly impeding traffic, but I gotta see, you know, I gotta see what it's like. I gotta understand their mentality. I'm actually not tired yet. I thought I'd be tired by now. Right, let's fucking do it. I'm gonna do my typical cyclist thing. Here we go. I'm now impeding traffic knowingly. Trying to go as fast as I can. Keeping up a pretty good speed. There wouldn't be, even if I hugged the curb, there would not be enough room for this car to pass. I'm putting in a lot more effort. I'm going so much faster than any other cyclist I've seen this morning. I'm almost keeping up with the car ahead. You've just witnessed for the first time in history a cyclist pulling over because the cars behind him were aggravated. Now, I'm no cyclist, but I'd say I'm in better shape than most of these 50-year-olds out here riding bikes. And you know, this is a bicycle that's been designed to go on the road. This is quite a fast bike. It's made out of carbon fiber. It's very light. Morning, lads. I'm not sure if you see that, but one of the cyclists chose to stay in the middle of the road. Other two moving over for the cars to pass. Two people doing the right thing doesn't make a difference if one person isn't. This bike is designed to go fast, and I couldn't even go fast enough to where I wasn't impeding traffic. If I was going that speed in a car and a policeman was behind me, he has every right to pull me over and give me a ticket for going too slow. This section of the road, I kind of understand. The road is quite wide. You can almost give a cyclist 1.5 meters, and the cycle lane, it's pretty average. However, this is the way that I came from. We rode over a few tree roots. Didn't hurt. My balls are still there, I think. Morning, mate. How you going? Can I ask you some questions? So I think we shouldn't ride two abreast. Probably a bad illegal thing to do. So do you use the cycle lane, the new one, back over the way?
I ride 3 times a week, Wednesday and Friday.
Yeah.
So I ride early, like 5 o'clock. Coming out of town, I use the cycle lane.
Yeah.
And like this morning going in, because it's reasonably busy, I use it going into town. But it's shit.
You know, I'm not used to the balls being squished and the tight clothes, but I mean, there was a few bumps, there was a few tree roots. I didn't seem to have too much of an issue. As a commuter on the road, there's a lot of speed bumps. There's red lights. There's potholes. There's lots of shit.
It's like, good if it was smoother.
I totally agree with you.
30 k's an hour, you know, it's a lot worse.
Yeah, I was doing 40.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I was fucking busting it. It's hard work, not for sure.
It's shit. It's gonna be a lot better for the amount of time and work and money it costs.
100%. Are you mates with some of the guys that ride two abreast and
I just ride on my own.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Yeah. No, some of those are idiots.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw you running in the cycle lane. Is there a reason that you use the cycle lane to run?
It's too busy in the pedestrian lane.
Too busy in the pedestrian lane.
End up with a whole lot of bikes in the pedestrian lane as well. So.
Because as a commuter, I have a lot of issues where cyclists are on the road and they complain that there's too many pedestrians in the cycle lane. Yeah. So if everyone just shifts the blame over and over and from one again to the other, it's just going to keep compounding the issue, you know?
So I think the problem's with the space.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's partly it, but also no one takes responsibility for their actions.
Yeah. But I find, like, you know, even if you've got 3 walkers in one lane, a heap of space, they're all walking side by side.
Yeah.
Pushes me under the grass and the trees. And
have you asked them to move over? Because this morning.
Yeah, I asked them.
Yeah.
And cyclists asked me, you're right, yeah. It's just a chain, but I think the root cause is the space. I'm doing a documentary about the cycle lanes in Auckland.
Yeah.
I just noticed that you were cycling in the walking lane. Why was that?
Because it's really confusing. Bits of it are open and bits of it are closed, and I'm not sure which bits are open.
Oh, okay. Cool. Have you ever ridden your bike on the road?
Yeah.
Do you think it's dangerous?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you don't do it anymore?
Only when I can't find a cycle lane or they're closed.
I saw that you were cycling in the cycle lane and not on the road, even though you were going quite fast. You don't enjoy cycling on the road?
Cycling on the road's okay, but with the traffic here it's a little bit tight, so you kind of have to go on the cycleway. The problem with the cycleway, it's a bit bumpy. They haven't made it particularly user-friendly.
Do you find any problems like coming off and on the cycle lane?
No, it seems to be okay at the moment. They could probably tidy up this little area, I suppose.
Do you commute into the city on your bike?
No, I just
for sport?
Weekday and weekend rides. Yeah.
Okay. So after that, I actually had less respect for the cyclist than I initially did. This cycle lane was it was really well built. People are always saying in the community groups, and when I ask them to get off the road, they just say, oh, it's too bumpy, it's not straight enough. I have to get up onto the curb and then down off the curb and up onto the curb. It's so hard. It was not in any way uncomfortable. The first 1 minute getting on the bike, yeah, your balls are a bit squished. But after that, it was quite nice. I had a great time. going down the cycle lane. And then when I had to turn around and get on the road, I was one, terrified, because it's just such a dangerous situation. Two, I actually had like empathy for the cars behind me. I was like, fuck, I'm a real dickhead right now. I'm blocking traffic. And you know, while I'm no cyclist, I was fucking gunning it that entire time, keeping up about a 35km/h pace. You know, this is a super lightweight bike. It should be able to go 50 km/h, right? If these guys are so good, you know, if all these cyclists that are full lycra fucking want to be Lance Armstrongs, don't you think they should be able to at least go the speed limit? That's when I really started to not care so much about how non-biased this video was. I asked multiple cyclists in the community. I wanted the real road cyclists, the real Lance Armstrongs, to get on camera and sort of just, you know, at least give their perspective. And silence, nothing. The only replies and comments I ever received is when I would post something somewhat negative or just questioning their intellect or mindset. And that's when I just received hate messages. I posted a story on Reddit where I wrote about how I was driving along Tamaki Drive. This is during the construction stages, and there was 3 cyclists in front of me. I was beeping at them. You know, they were going like 25 k's an hour, and I just wanted to get past. And they could have just moved onto the footpath. It was perfectly fine at that time, and they just fuck off, pull the finger at me. And so when I eventually had the chance, like 5 minutes later, I pulled in front of them and stopped my car in front of them. And that is when they started hitting my car. They broke the wing mirror, they dented my car. And you know, what am I to do in that situation? There's 3 old men attacking me because I asked them to stop blocking traffic. Can I call the police on them? Oh, there's 3 old men in lycra on bicycles. If they had some sort of registration system like motorbikes do, like mopeds do, like cars do, like trucks do, like everyone else that is allowed on the road, you pay for a registration. I don't care if it's $5 a year. I don't care if it's free. You need to have accountability for someone that, you know, even if they are the smaller person in the situation. This is the argument I always hear. I hear people saying, you know, oh, we shouldn't have a registration on bikes because if we get hit, we're the ones that are gonna die. Yeah, you choose to ride on the road. That's why we built a fucking cycle lane for you. You don't have to go on the road. If you want to go faster, then go on the road, but at least go like 50 k's an hour. If you're so strong and so fit and so, you know, spend thousands of dollars on these bikes, surely you can go 50 k's an hour. It's pretty slow. No, all we see is 30 k's an hour. They just prancing along, chilling, talking with the homies. It's ready to get a trim flat white afterwards. Yeah, it's a dangerous game that we're playing. If we keep on letting people just avoid the law and make up their own rules and never get punished for it, you know, oh, because they only have 2 wheels and they're very fragile, it's okay. I just don't see the logic behind that. But fortunately, there is someone that is trying to speak for the community. Surprisingly, he's actually a cyclist himself. We sat down with Don a few weeks ago, just had a chat about, you know, what can be done in the short term and the long term for the cycle lanes here in Auckland. He's been living here 25 years, I think. He's a cyclist, possibly the most reasonable cyclist I have ever met in my life. He's a really good dude. We had a great chat. Unfortunately, it seems that the council just doesn't really give a shit about what the community thinks. You know, they talked with Bike Auckland, they made sure the cyclists were happy, but they took into no consideration what Don or any of the community had to say, it seems. So I got Don on camera for a few questions. He is the chairman of the Residents Association here in Kohimarama Mission Bay, and he really just sort of outlined how his experience was. You know, he is the person that takes all of the community's feedback, worries, complaints, anything. He is the person that then presents that to the council and hopes that the council will take on their feedback as they try to serve the community.
My name is Don Stock. I'm the chair of the Mission Bay Kohimarama Residents Association. The problem we find on Tamaki Drive is that there's really just not enough width in the road to be able to accommodate everything that we want. Well, Auckland Transport these days are, to their credit, they're trying to actually consult quite widely with the community. The project that they're implementing at the moment was something that did go out to community consultation, was largely rejected by the community as being impractical and not really being suitable for purpose. Bike Auckland came up with an alternative plan, and in broad respects Auckland Transport adopted much of their plan. They did come back and tell us what the new plan was going to be. We didn't have much opportunity to look into that in detail just to see how it was going to work. I suppose at the time it seemed slightly too good to be true because it seemed to give the perfect solution for everyone. Now that it's been built, it looks like we didn't get the perfect solution for motorists in particular. Well, the cycle lane in principle is great. It's a good width. Large parts of it are beautiful surface. There are some defects in it and I believe that those are going to be fixed. In the slightly longer term, I don't think there'll be any reason why a cyclist should not actually want to use that path. It's got to be so much more pleasant and so much safer. It's been a particular problem lately because we still have construction that's constricting Tamaki Drive, so that a lot of the time there's only one lane or two very narrow lanes, so even a single cyclist can restrict the traffic flow. But when cyclists ride 2 or even 3 abreast, then clearly it can cause traffic just to completely back up behind them and with no opportunity to get past. That's just plain rude. If we can have a clearer set of rules, maybe a changed set of rules as to what people can and cannot do in different parts of the road width. Most people want to obey the rules. There's only a few people who are actually going to deliberately avoid the rules. All cyclists should be using the cycle lane. Perhaps the exception to that would be those that are out trying to ride in a group at high speed and so forth, and if they want to do that on the road, they should do that at times where they're not actually going to cause any disruption to traffic flow. So that might be early in the morning before 7 a.m. So if we had rules around who could use which part of the roadway at any given time, that would be a great starting point. Of course, if you can't enforce those rules because you can't identify people, then yes, the rules probably don't mean very much to somebody who doesn't care about rules. When Auckland Transport has gone to the trouble and expense of putting in a really good cycleway, then that should be the trigger to say, well, cyclists should not be allowed to ride on the road at times where they're going to disrupt traffic. I understand that it's probably not possible to get a rule like that, but nevertheless, I think logically that would be what you'd expect. I have no problem with a peloton of cyclists riding at 6 or 6:30 in the morning when there's not much traffic and they can ride 10 abreast if that's what they want to do. But I have a real problem with them trying to do that at 8 or 9 in the morning when they're holding up traffic. You might ban cyclists, for example, from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. in the morning or something like that, and then from 4 till 7 at night. I think that could work very well. I'm not sure whether the council actually has the authority to create such rules though. I think there should be more self-enforcement by cyclists and cycling groups. I'd like to see cyclists take charge of this themselves because I am a cyclist, I'm a good person, I like to follow the rules, I don't want to be annoying to other people. So if the rules are fairly clear to me, I will follow them. There are some cyclists who are not good people and they will just be quite happy to be obnoxious and to make life difficult for others just on principle. Those I would love to see more enforcement. To be honest, I don't quite see how you would do it. It would be nice if we could see the perennial offenders, those that actually are showing a blatant disregard for other road users, if they could actually have the rules enforced on them. I guess I would like to see Auckland Transport and Auckland Council look towards the long term and actually engage with us on a proposal we have for a long-term plan for Tamaki Drive that would see a separate walking boulevard from end to end and a separate cycleway from end to end that would be constructed outside of the current seawall where there's not enough width to do it within the seawall. Now clearly that would be a lot more expensive and clearly we don't have the money right now, so I think that's got to be seen as a long-term vision. But I really would be keen to get Auckland Transport and Auckland Council on board with that vision so that everything they did along Tamaki Drive actually was going to be consistent and compatible with that long-term vision so that one day we might actually get there. So we're not having arguments between cyclists and motorists anymore. Historically, they've been absolutely disastrous. It came to a head with respect to safety changes that Auckland Transport was wanting to make for Mission Bay and St Heliers, when there was such a local backlash that Auckland Transport was forced to address their approach and their attitude. And to be fair to Auckland Transport, they've actually been very receptive to local input since that time. Auckland Transport is still quite a bureaucratic organisation, and so I think they find it difficult to prioritise common sense above their rule books.
After talking with Don, my position switched a little bit from anger at the cyclists to sort of anger at the whole system in general. You know, and the pedestrians shift the blame the cyclists. They say, oh, they walk in the cycle lane. I'm like, oh, so there's other people in your lane. Wow, that's really interesting. Because right now you're on the road and you don't seem to be considering anyone else in your surroundings. But when it affects you negatively, it's a big deal. So you have to move. Well, I don't get the option of moving, so why should I have to be impeded by you when you could just ask them to move? You know, that is the cycle lane. Everyone just needs to be a bit more courteous. Everyone needs to stop being an asshole if you are being an asshole. Overall, the council really needs to sort of get their shit together. I personally think that, you know, there's always going to be people that don't follow the rules. I think that cyclists should have a registration on them, some sort of identification, so that, for example, if they hit a child and almost kill them running a red light, you know, what's to stop them from just cycling off down an alleyway? Nothing. But if it was a moped, if it was a vehicle, if it was a motorbike, got that on camera. There's a license plate right there. Nothing to stop cyclists with breaking the rules and just getting away with it. Like they did, you know, they smashed up my car. It's on us as the community to call this shit out when we see it as well. If you see a cyclist doing some dumb shit like running a red light, you should pull them over and tell them that they're a fuckwit. If you see people walking in the cycle lane, call them out. I really hope that this can inspire some of you to take action. I would recommend speaking to your local representatives, you know, whether that be councilmen, the NZTA. I'll leave some contact info down below where you can send an email to the NZTA or to Ministry of Transport. This city has been historically terrible at city planning. You know, we're growing at a ridiculous rate. It's just, you know, it's just another one of those problems that needs more communication, more planning. And you know, I'm no expert, I'm no city planner, but it's clear there's a problem. No one seems to be doing anything about it. As a member of the community that's fucking sick of it, I thought I should at least put my opinion out there, try and offer some sort of solution, you know? A solution for cyclists breaking the law: registration. Makes them actually liable. It gives them an identity. Most of the time, they seem to be riding between 6 and 9 a.m. Maybe we say, okay, you can ride between 6 and 8 a.m. Get out there early, get your exercise in, go for it. But as soon as you start impeding traffic when people are commuting or in the middle of the day, you're just being an asshole. You can cycle in this lane before the hours of 8 a.m. on weekdays. Outside of those hours, just like a T2 lane, instead of using that lane, you use a cycle lane. You use the correct lane during a certain time, depending on how much traffic is in that area, just like bus lanes. But obviously, it's the Auckland Council we're talking about. Action is extremely slow. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Leave your comments below. What do you think? Let's try to think of some actual constructive things to do here. Let's actually try to think of some solutions. Let's come to a verdict. And you know, we shouldn't just be screaming at each other on the roads all the time. All I see in Mission Bay is beeping and fuck you back. And it's a very negative direction for the community to be steering in. So that's pretty much my spiel. I hope you enjoyed. Leave your thoughts below and I'll see you next time.